4:50 p.m., December 26, 1944. Lieutenant Charles Bogus's Sherman tank Cobra King rolled into Bastogne. The siege was broken. Germans had calculated this moment couldn't happen for at least 2 weeks. They'd built their entire offensive around that timeline. Patton had done it in 7 days. The German intelligence officers who'd made that calculation were about to learn a painful lesson. Sometimes impossible just means you haven't met the right general yet. Every impossible achievement starts with someone refusing to accept the math. Hit subscribe to follow stories like this. But to understand how Patton broke every rule and proved the Germans catastrophically wrong, we need to go back to December 19th and a freezing barracks in Verdun. December 19th, 1944. Eisenhower called a desperate meeting at Verdun. Germans were winning. American lines broken. 101st Airborne surrounded at Bastogne. American forces retreating across a 60-mile front. Patton's Third Army sat 100 miles south, fighting a completely different battle in the Saar region. To help at Bastogne, Patton would have to disengage from combat, turn his entire army 90 degrees, march through winter storms, and attack into the strongest German offensive since D-Day. The other generals looked at maps, did math in their heads. 2 weeks minimum, they thought. Maybe 3 if weather stayed bad. Eisenhower turned to Patton. How long to turn your army north and attack? The question hung in cold air. Patton didn't hesitate. I can attack on the morning of December 22nd. 3 days. The room went silent. Bradley thought Patton was grandstanding. British officers exchanged skeptical glances. Even Eisenhower seemed surprised. But Patton wasn't bluffing. He'd already prepared 3 complete attack plans. His staff had worked through contingencies. He knew exactly which divisions would move, which roads they'd use, where they'd hit the German flank. What none of the Allied commanders knew was that 50 miles away, German intelligence officers were having their own meeting, making calculations that would cost Germany the entire offensive. They were certain Patton couldn't arrive for at least 2 weeks, banking their entire strategy on that assumption. They were catastrophically wrong. Major General Hasso von Manteuffel commanded German 5th Panzer Army. His forces drove toward Bastogne from north and east. He was confident the town would fall within days. Von Manteuffel's intelligence staff had given detailed assessment of Allied capabilities. Report was clear: American reinforcements couldn't arrive in time. Closest significant force was Patton's Third Army, but Third Army was fully engaged in the Saar, 100 miles south. German intelligence estimated at least 2 weeks for Patton to disengage, regroup, and mount offensive north. Von Manteuffel studied numbers. Staff had accounted for everything. Distance Patton had to cover. Winter roads. Fuel requirements. Ammunition resupply. Coordination needed to turn an entire army. Hitler's orders demanded they reach Antwerp. Von Manteuffel privately doubted that ambitious goal. But he was confident about one thing: Patton wouldn't arrive in time. He told his staff they'd have the town secured before American reinforcements arrived, based on solid intelligence analysis. Or so they thought. German calculation was rooted in their own doctrine. Wehrmacht units required extensive preparation for major operations. Moving an army wasn't something you did in 48 hours. Deliberate process taking weeks. German staff procedures demanded detailed planning. Units pulled from line in proper sequence. Supply dumps repositioned. Artillery moved with infantry. Coordination took time. Germans assumed Americans operated the same way. Assumed Patton would need time to plan, coordinate, build up logistics. They'd seen American caution before. Expected more of the same. But Patton wasn't cautious. And he'd already done the planning before anyone asked. What Germans didn't know: Patton had been preparing for exactly this scenario since mid-December. He'd watched German build-up in the Ardennes. Seen intelligence reports everyone else dismissed. December 12th, 4 days before German attack began, Patton called his staff together. Told them Germans were going to attack through Ardennes. When they did, Eisenhower would need Third Army to bail him out. His intelligence officer, Colonel Oskar Koch, agreed. Koch had tracked German movements for weeks. Identified concentration of forces. Warned of impending offensive. Patton told his chief of staff, Major General Hobart Gay, to prepare contingency plans. 3 different plans for turning the army north. 1 for attacking at Ardennes, 1 for Luxembourg, 1 for Dunkirk. Gay thought Patton was being paranoid. Third Army was mid-offensive towards Siegfried Line. Preparing for completely different operations seemed like waste of time. But he knew better than to argue with Patton. For a week, while Third Army fought in Saar, Patton's staff worked on contingency plans, mapped road networks, calculated fuel requirements, identified which divisions could move fastest. By December 18th, when German offensive was 2 days old and crisis becoming clear, Patton's plans were complete. 3 fully developed operations ready to execute. All he needed was the order. At Verdun meeting December 19th, when Eisenhower asked how quickly he could attack, Patton already knew the answer. Wargamed it. Logistics worked out. Division commanders briefed. December 22nd, Patton said. 3 days. He meant it. German intelligence officers calculating Patton needed 2 weeks had no idea they were dealing with a commander who'd already done the work. No idea American logistics could move that fast. They were about to learn. Quick aside, if you're done with AI channels that get details wrong, membership has real research and footage. Link below. Back to what was happening in Bastogne while Patton prepared. By December 20th, situation at Bastogne was desperate. 101st Airborne and elements of 10th Armored completely surrounded. Germans cut every road. Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe commanded surrounded Americans. About 18,000 men. Running low on ammunition, medical supplies, food. Weather too bad for air resupply. Inside perimeter, it was getting quieter. Not because shooting stopped, because they were running out of bullets. Every shot had to count. They listened to German tracks getting closer, wondering if anyone outside even knew they were alive. December 22nd, Germans sent McAuliffe's surrender demand. Message formal, emphasized hopelessness of American position. Germans gave 2 hours to decide. McAuliffe's response became legendary, nuts. When German officers asked for clarification, an American colonel explained, "Go to hell." But McAuliffe's defiance didn't change tactical reality. Men surrounded. German artillery pounding constantly. Casualties mounting. Without relief, Bastogne would eventually fall. Von Manteuffel and his staff knew this. Confident they could reduce Bastogne before American reinforcements arrived. Intelligence still showed Patton at least 10 days away. What von Manteuffel didn't know, at that exact moment, Patton's Third Army was already moving. 3 divisions, approximately 133,000 men, disengaging from combat in Saar and turning north. 4th Armored Division leading advance. 26th Infantry Division and 80th Infantry following. Behind them, entire Third Army logistics system pivoting. German reconnaissance spotted some movement December 20th to 21st, but weather was terrible. Visibility poor. Germans couldn't get clear picture. Ground intelligence reported American activity in Ardennes area, about 25 miles south of Bastogne. Reports fragmentary. German intelligence officers concluded it was probably local repositioning, not major offensive. Still believed Patton was in Saar. Still believed relief at least a week away. Making decisions based on assumptions already obsolete. What Patton was attempting was unprecedented in American military operations. Rare in modern warfare. Moving entire army, 3 divisions plus supporting artillery, engineers, logistics, 90 degrees across 75-mile front in middle of winter during active combat. Logistics staggering. Third Army had to move 133,000 men, 11,000 vehicles, hundreds of thousands of tons of supplies. On icy roads in sub-freezing temperatures with limited daylight hours. Road network was first problem. Only a few good roads running north from Saar to Ardennes. Every road would be packed with vehicles bumper to bumper for days. Patton staff calculated, using every available road, they could move 1 division every 24 hours. 4th Armored first. Infantry divisions following in sequence. Traffic control critical. Military police positioned at every intersection. Officers with maps directing vehicles to assigned routes. Any breakdown or accident would create massive jam. Weather made everything harder. Temperatures below freezing. Roads covered with ice and snow. Vehicles skidded. Drivers fought to keep trucks from sliding into ditches. But Patton's officers had trained for this. Third Army had reputation for aggressive logistics. Quartermasters knew how to move supplies faster than any other army. Division commanders knew how to push men hard without breaking them. The move exposed massive risk. Turning north meant Patton's southern flank completely open to German counterattack. Staff warned about danger. Patton dismissed concerns. Told Eisenhower, Germans should worry about their own flanks. December 20th, movement began. 4 a.m., first elements of 4th Armored started rolling north. Behind them, endless stream of vehicles. Columns stretched for miles. Drivers falling asleep at wheel from exhaustion. Officers walked lines, physically waking men to keep them moving. They knew, if they stopped, men in Bastogne died. So they kept driving. German reconnaissance pilots spotted parts of movement December 21st. Still didn't grasp scale. Reported increased American activity south of Luxembourg. Didn't report full army on march. Von Manteuffel's intelligence staff received reports and dismissed them as insignificant. One officer wrote in daily summary, local adjustments, no major threat to southern flank. No idea largest American operational movement of the war was happening right in front of them. No idea their 2-week calculation was about to be shattered. German failure to detect Patton's movement wasn't just bad luck. Result of systemic intelligence failures that would cost them the entire offensive. Luftwaffe had virtually no air reconnaissance capability by December 1944. Allied air superiority meant German planes couldn't fly during daylight. Few night reconnaissance missions provided limited information. German ground intelligence almost as bad. Rapid advance outran intelligence networks. Operating in newly captured territory. No agents, no local informants, no signal intercepts. Patton made their job harder. Enforced total radio silence during entire movement. Third Army, normally generating constant radio traffic, suddenly went dark. German signal intelligence units frantically searched for missing army. Sudden blackout of entire American army terrified German intelligence officers. Realized they'd lost track of over 130,000 men. Von Manteuffel staff had calculated Patton's arrival based on rational assumptions about American operational tempo. Assumptions were wrong because Patton was willing to accept risks rational commanders avoided. He moved divisions while still in contact with enemy. Shifted logistics on fly. Accepted possibility of units getting lost or running out of fuel. Gambled that speed mattered more than perfect preparation. Germans couldn't imagine American general taking those risks. So when reconnaissance reported American movement south of Luxembourg December 21st, they interpreted it as something minor. Something that fit their assumptions. By the time they realized what was actually happening, it would be too late. Every gamble has a moment of truth. Hit subscribe to see how this one played out. Because at 6 a.m. December 22nd, 3 days after Verdun meeting, reality hit German lines like a hammer. 6 a.m., December 22nd. Patton's Third Army attacked. 4th Armored Division hit German southern flank near Ardennes, Luxembourg. German units in area were stunned. No warning major American force was even in region. One moment consolidating positions. Next, under heavy attack from entire armored division. 5th Parachute Division held German lines south of Bastogne. Solid unit. But not prepared for what hit them. Sherman tanks came out of snow and fog. American artillery opened with devastating effect. Within hours, defensive line penetrated. 4th Armored punched through and began advancing toward Bastogne, 25 miles north. Patton told them, move fast, accept casualties, reach the garrison. At von Manteuffel's headquarters, reports started arriving around noon. Strong American armored attack near Ardennes. Then multiple American divisions identified. Then enemy advance toward Bastogne. Von Manteuffel looked at map in disbelief. Asked intelligence chief, how is this possible? Patton was supposed to be in Saar. Intelligence officer had no answer. Entire assessment wrong. Patton wasn't 10 days away. He was here now. Attacking with overwhelming force. Von Manteuffel immediately ordered reinforcements to block American advance, but didn't have many reserves available. Most forces committed to taking Bastogne from north or pushing west toward Meuse. Pulled Panzer Division and elements of 1st SS Panzer Division to create blocking force south of Bastogne. Elite units. But had to move into position while under attack. Desperate improvisation. Battle south of Bastogne became brutal slugging match. Germans fought hard to keep Americans from reaching garrison. 4th Armored fought through village after village, taking casualties but maintaining momentum. But Germans couldn't stop what was coming. Behind 4th Armored, entire 3rd Army arriving. 26th Infantry Division and 80th Infantry moving into position. Patton brought overwhelming force. German southern flank collapsing. December 23, von Manteuffel sent urgent message to Field Marshal Walter Model, commander of Army Group B. Message blunt. Patton attacked southern flank with at least 3 divisions. Intelligence estimates catastrophically wrong. Model was furious. Entire offensive depended on having time to capture Bastogne and push to Meuse before American reinforcements arrived. If Patton already attacking in force, timeline destroyed. Model called von Manteuffel. Demanded explanation. How had entire American army moved 100 miles without being detected? How had intelligence missed this? Von Manteuffel explained, they'd moved faster than anyone believed possible. Calculations assumed normal American operational tempo. Patton not operating normally. What von Manteuffel didn't say but understood completely, this meant German offensive was probably doomed. If Patton relieved Bastogne, entire German salient vulnerable to counterattack from south. Model ordered von Manteuffel, hold Bastogne at all costs. If Bastogne held and Patton linked up with garrison, they'd lose best roads west. Offensive would stall. But giving order and executing it were different things. Von Manteuffel now fighting 2 fronts. Forces around Bastogne fighting 101st Airborne inside town while simultaneously blocking Patton from south. German forces stretched thin. Units that had been attacking pulled back to defense. Reserve supposed to continue westward drive redirected to stop Patton. Entire operational plan unraveling. German offensive predicated on speed and momentum. Take Bastogne quickly, reach Meuse, split Allied forces before they could react. But Patton reacted faster than anyone thought possible. Germans were still dangerous. Strong forces, good commanders. But they'd lost initiative. Reacting to Patton instead of executing plan. In mobile warfare, that was usually fatal. 4:50 p.m., December 26, 1944. Lead elements of 4th Armored Division entered Bastogne. Siege broken. Surrounded garrison relieved. Patton had done what Germans said was impossible. Lieutenant Charles Boggess, commanding lead Sherman Cobra King, made contact with 101st Airborne. His battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams, followed close behind. 37th Tank Battalion had fought through 4 days of brutal combat, covering 25 miles from Ardennes to Bastogne against determined German resistance. But they'd made it. Inside Bastogne, 101st Airborne had held despite being outnumbered and surrounded. When first Sherman tanks appeared, soldiers came out of positions cheering. Some crying. Endured week of hell and survived. When Cobra King's hatch opened, no formal salute. Just exhausted men shaking hands in snow. 101st had held the line. But seeing that white star on Sherman's side was first time in week they knew they were going home. General McAuliffe met with relief column commanders shortly after arrival. Surrounded garrison could finally be resupplied and reinforced. Relief of Bastogne was militarily significant, but also symbolically devastating to Germans. They'd gambled everything on rapid breakthrough before American reserves arrived. Patton shattered that timeline. Von Manteuffel received word of breakthrough at headquarters. Immediately understood what it meant. Told staff, offensive is over. Can't take Bastogne now. Can't push to Meuse. Be lucky to hold what they had. Chief of Staff protested, still had strong forces, could continue attacking westward. Von Manteuffel shook his head. With Patton attacking southern flank and Bastogne in American hands, they were in salient now, not breakthrough. Continuing west would only surround them. Model at Army Group headquarters still wanted to continue offensive, but receiving similar assessments from other commanders. Momentum gone. Surprise lost. Allied reinforcements arriving from every direction. December 27th, Hitler ordered offensive to continue. Field commanders knew it was hopeless. No choice. Attack until they couldn't attack anymore. But everyone understood truth. Patton had stopped German offensive. Done it in 7 days when Germans calculated he needed 2 weeks. Impossibility had become reality. German army was about to pay the price. Patton believed relief of Bastogne vindicated his entire approach to warfare. Advocated speed and aggression throughout Korea. Operation proved his methods worked. Patton told staff after battle, "Key to mobile warfare wasn't having overwhelming force. Key was moving faster than enemy could react. Get inside his decision cycle, you win regardless of force ratios." This was principle German intelligence failed to account for. They calculated force ratios and movement speeds, analyzed logistics and terrain, but didn't account for decision-making speed. Patton made decisions faster than German commanders, accepted risks they wouldn't accept, moved before they thought movement possible. Tempo advantage more important than numerical superiority. January 1945 press conference. Reporter asked Patton how he moved so quickly. Patton's answer was revealing. They didn't move quickly. They moved normally. Everyone else moved too slowly. That statement captured fundamental difference in military culture. What looked impossible to Germans was normal operating procedure for Patton. What looked risky to cautious commanders was acceptable risk to Patton. Relief of Bastogne became one of Patton's signature achievements. Featured prominently in newspaper coverage. Reinforced reputation as America's most aggressive and effective combat commander. But Patton himself already focused on next operation. Wrote in diary December 29 that Bastogne was necessary diversion. Now needed to get back on offensive and drive into Germany. War wouldn't be won by defensive victories. That aggressive mindset, constant focus on next attack, next advance, next objective, was what made Patton different. What Germans failed to anticipate when they calculated his arrival time. For the complete story with archival footage we couldn't include here, membership link below. Real research, no AI shortcuts. Thanks for watching. Military historians consistently identify relief of Bastogne as one of greatest logistical achievements of World War II. Studied in staff colleges today not just as history but as ultimate example of rapid redeployment. What makes Operation legendary? It succeeded precisely because Patton violated conventional military wisdom. Moved forces while in contact with enemy. Prioritized speed over preparation. Accepted risk doctrine warned against. Germans were right, operation was extremely risky. But wrong, it was impossible. Difference matters. Impossible means it cannot be done. Extremely risky means it might succeed if you have right leader. Patton bet on his preparation, his logistics, his troops. Bet paid off. Bastogne relieved. German offensive failed. And German intelligence officers who calculated 2 weeks learn hard way. Sometimes impossible only takes 7 days if you have an army, a mission, and will to win. German failure at Bastogne wasn't just tactical defeat. It was failure of imagination. They couldn't conceive of commander who would take risks Patton took. Couldn't imagine logistic system that could move as fast as Third Army moved. Their doctrine told them certain things were impossible. Patton showed them doctrine was just guidelines, not laws of physics. December 26, when Cobra King rolled into Bastogne, it didn't just break siege. It broke German assumptions about what American forces could do. Broke timeline they'd built entire offensive around. Broke confidence they could still win war through audacious gambles. Bastogne proved that audacity wasn't German monopoly. Americans could be audacious too. And when they had right leader pushing them, they were unstoppable. Von Manteuffel knew it when he got word of relief. Model knew it when reports came in. German generals across Western Front knew it. They'd miscalculated. Not just about Patton's arrival time. About entire nature of American military capability. That miscalculation would haunt them through final months of war. Every time German planners made assumptions about American operational tempo, someone would ask, but what if they pull another Bastogne? Patton had changed calculation. Made impossible look routine. Made 7 days look like eternity when you're on wrong end of it. And for 101st Airborne soldiers watching that white star on Sherman's hull roll through Bastogne streets, none of math mattered. Patton promised he'd come. Germans said he couldn't. Patton came anyway. Sometimes that's all that matters.